Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here today. Welcome on behalf of Drexel University and West Falls College of Media Arts and Design. Welcome as we celebrate Digital Media's class of 2018. We're happy to see so many family, friends, and loved ones here today. We also have professionals and colleagues from industry and academia. My name, I have to remind myself, that's why I'm cute. My name is Rob Lloyd. I teach in digital media in game design and production, and I'm also the coordinator for Senior Project for all of digital media. And so I'm the shepherd. I'm the one who's trying to take them through this very long, complex marathon of Senior Project that brings you here today. College is hard, big subject, they're all hard. You have to love this to survive and to thrive, to hold you through those dark nights when you're up just a little later than you should be, eating a little less than you should be, trying to work a little harder than you should be. But we have an incredible group. They started as a group of over 70 juniors last year, searching for like-minded individuals, ideas, projects worth sinking their teeth into, trying to convince faculty to join them in that adventure, and bring that into a direction that they can pursue for the next year. It all starts in spring. It really starts before then. And for some of these teams, I think one team claims they began in 2016 before. But it begins in spring, and we try to get this large, diverse group to come together around these ideas and do experiments. And it rolls on into summer. And the juniors, currently right now, the juniors are going through the same process. So we'll save you a seat for next year. We look forward to what you will produce. But like the current juniors, this cohort, this large and diverse group had to coalesce into teams. 9 of them this year. And we're very, very proud of them and excited to show you their work. And it's a complex thing that they do. They've partnered with computer science majors. They've partnered with music industry majors. They've found faculty to work with and advise them, but they've also worked with Drexel researchers, and they've also partnered with external stakeholders. Money is on the line, prototypes and projects that are going to form the foundation of businesses. It's been a really interesting and diverse group that we have this year. There's a bonus event I want to make sure you know about. There is a screening for all the animation and visual effects films tomorrow, starting at 3 p.m. in the Urban Annex screening room. And there you'll be able to see all the full-length films again tomorrow, as well as the full edit of Tribute by Snaps FX. They're only showing the abridged version today. I encourage you to go and see the entire film if you can. So that's tomorrow. That's that festival. We're in theater. There's some basic rules of polite society that we ask you nicely to follow. So please silence your cell phones. No flash photography, especially during the playback of the films themselves. All of this is being streamed live on YouTube, and it's also being archived, and you'll be able to watch that later, so you won't miss a thing. And there'll be an opportunity for photos at the end as well, with the entire cohort and all the teams up on stage before we go on to the expo. And with that, I get to breathe a little bit more easier now because my hard part is done. And now the heavy lifting is going to be done by our incredible seniors. So I'm very excited to get on with the show. And with that, I would like to introduce you to a really lovely and ambitious interactive exhibit about people bringing their personal flavors and visions and joining and adding to a new community. Coalescence by Mo.
Hi everyone, we're Mo. We're going to tell you about our project, Coalescence. I'm Matthew, project manager and designer.
I'm Jake, lead designer.
I'm Jordan, lead developer.
I'm Yuli, I'm the designer.
I'm Ariel, I'm a UX designer.
I'm Faye, also UX designer.
I'm Angel, developer.
I'm Anna, developer and content strategist.
And I'm Jackie, a developer.
And Coalescence was an interactive art exhibit that united art, technology, and social good. It features the works and narratives of Angie and Unstrung. Let's show you how the exhibit went.
So we chose to use our platform to engage and hopefully instill a feeling of empathy and unity in our visitors by highlighting the achievements of two local Philadelphia community members who sometimes are missed or underrepresented. By highlighting the achievements of Angie and Len, we hope that users would relate their own past experiences to the creators and seek out art and creativity of any kind from various parts of the city and the world.
We followed an agile process, constantly iterating our code and design and testing along the way. Our major interactive digital media gives us the skill set to create responsive websites and mobile applications, but we wanted to use experience design to affect physical design as well. We use a combination of user-centered design, web development, and experimental web technologies to create our enhanced exhibit experience.
When developing the visual styling for the exhibit, we looked towards Angie and Len for inspiration because both creators have this authentic and almost nostalgic feeling about their work. We decided to create a layered collage aesthetic that was applied to almost every medium in the exhibit. To achieve this, we created custom and hand-done patterns, textures, and used film photography. The colors red, green, and yellow are significant in Malaysian culture, but we decided to keep the overall palette toned down to better align with many of Len's naturally colored and soothing pieces. Ultimately, we created a styling that created a cohesive experience because it was able to be applied to so many different mediums within the exhibit.
The exhibit itself was laid out precisely to first introduce visitors to the artists themselves, learn a little bit more about their influences and their work, and finally add to a collective art piece that draws inspiration from both creators.
To keep Len and Angie at the focus of this exhibit, we went with a minimal and modular design. We repurposed coffee tables to house artworks, objects, and posters, and these help divide and define space while not requiring too much physical construction.
The posters that went on these structures were slightly more stylized as they mimic designs and colors from our user interface and style guide.
For our experience design, we wanted to combine 3 different objectives. We wanted to have physical and digital design. We also wanted to bring in the creators' inspiration and show their impact in the Philadelphia community. We wanted to use experimental technology and design, specifically web technologies, with that sense of exploration and delight.
In the beginning of the UX phase, we created user personas along with user journeys and did other user research needed, including research on exhibit design. We conducted over 100 individual usability tests, which was what made our design so user-centric and helped us improve with each version.
First interaction is the collage, which introduces visitors to the backgrounds and influences of Angie and Len. Using a multi-touch screen, two visitors can simultaneously hover over and interact with photographs using their respective cursors. Each photograph is a significant person, place, or object to the creators, which users can learn more about on the side cards. We wanted to create this collage aesthetic and use it, especially here, to highlight the blending of individuals and cultures by bringing both artists' influences into one collective art piece. And we also wanted this element of discoverability, where it wasn't exactly clear what elements were interactable and which weren't, which caused the visitors to have to explore a bit more to have the full experience. And by using multi-touch screen, we were able to create this shared learning environment while also reducing the wait times to use the interaction.
Our initial thought behind the collage allowed users to sort through photos, and which opened in a card layout to display more information.
And here was our first prototype of the collage, an improved version based on the wireframe just shown before to better show the functionality.
Since we were working with functionality that we'd never developed before, we wanted to start building early on. Due to our agile process, we were able to test the limitations of the technology and pivot the interaction to provide the best overall experience for our visitors.
Based on user feedback, we changed from our previous design to the current design, but still kept the explorative yet informative experience. After identifying and addressing user pain points, they thought our design was visually more interesting and the interaction was more cohesive.
The loom was our second interaction. We designed the loom specifically for its tactility and the connection it provides between lens to different mediums. With the loom, users use NFC technology to connect 4 threads to different NFC readers, showing 1 of 12 of lens paintings. Because we're using a physical change to digital projection, there are a few development challenges along the way.
Early builds of the loom were clunky and disproportionate, but through usability testing, we were able to modify the structure to create a more enjoyable experience.
The loom was difficult to make user-friendly because we were creating something that we had never done before. But by providing our users with instructions and on-screen feedback, we were able to make the process much more intuitive.
Our third interaction was the mural. With this design, visitors can interact with the carts in the street market and learn about 3 Malaysian dishes. We wanted visitors to feel like they were able to interact with the things that they saw in the scene. So we decided to use gesture control technology. Through the use of the lead motion sensor, visitors were able to use their hand motions to hover over the carts and view the videos of the dishes.
This slide was our very initial prototype of the mural. The concept was that the outlines on the canvas only showed partial information, and digital projection revealed the whole image by filling in colors, text, and photos onto the canvas.
And from our original prototype, we modified the design of the mural to represent a Malaysian street scene, again introducing an element of discoverability that allowed users to learn a little bit more about the food market.
In the beginning of testing the mural, users found the gesture control really difficult to use, but by simplifying these controls, users shared that they found the controls much easier to use.
The energy table interaction was the final interaction in the exhibit. It allowed visitors to leave their own personal mark and demonstrated that while we're all different, we can come together to create something new and beautiful. The use of socket.io and JavaScript, visitors could enter a little bit of information about themselves to create a personalized energy form. They chose a descriptive movement type inspired by Len and up to 3 slices inspired by energy. Once their energy form was created, it was then added to the collective energy projection where they could view their energy existing with others. It was also added to the Explorer interaction where other visitors could see the stories that they told.
Our initial idea for the energy table was to create a collective weaving. Users chose spices which determined the coloring of an individual strand that was then weaved into a projected table runner. But as we developed this, we realized we already had a pretty heavy emphasis on lens weaving through the loom and decided to highlight some of our other work. By making this change, we found that users actually felt a more personal connection to their energy forms than they did their strands. And we also, in this change, decided to split up the add and explore interactions. to create a more streamlined experience, but also, again, to reduce wait times to use the interactions.
At first, users were unclear on the connections and the meaning behind the usage of the spices and the energy movements. But by adding in context, users felt more connected to their selections and also to artists.
Based on the number of energies created throughout the exhibit, we estimate that over 200 people visited Coalescence. We provided these visitors with exit surveys and we're happy to see a reoccurring trend, cohesive. Visitors felt the exhibit was engaging, unified, and simple to use, and named the energy table as their favorite interaction, as allowed everyone to add their own personalized mark on the exhibit.
And of course, we can create Coalescence all on our own. So we'd like to extend our thanks to Troy Fenmore, our advisor, Rashida for introducing us to the artists, Angie Brinka and Len Sherman for allowing us to share their works and narratives, the Depth Inc. for supplying us with the 3D printed pieces, all of our helpful user testers for providing feedback, Leah for help curating the exhibit, all of our photographers who provided all the media for this presentation, of course the exhibit visitors for sharing the experience with us, and IKEA for the display structures. And thank you. If you like learning about Coalescence, we hope you come up to the expo and interact with some of the experiences that we're doing. Thank you.
Please come take a seat. There's plenty of seats up front and as well as throughout the theater. An ambitious and promising experimental project that augments Philadelphia's unique and innovative approach to live music performance. Project Symphony by Symphony XR.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're Symphony XR, and this is our senior project. I'm Christian Romero, team lead.
I'm Josh McGann, technical artist.
I'm Mikey Howard, designer. I'm Cyrus Majdi, artist.
I'm Billy Roth, animator.
And I'm Tristan Zimlin, the webmaster.
Project Symphony is a joint production between Drexel and the Curtis Institute of Music. It is an augmented reality experience created for our clients, Greg Sherrill and Chelsea Comschles. Our goal was to create a musically driven, holographic, theatrical experience that would enhance live classical music based on our composer's vision.
We accomplished this using the Microsoft HoloLens, an augmented reality headset capable of displaying interactive holograms rendered to appear as if in real-world space.
This performance was made possible by a collaboration between our team, programming team, audio technicians, and our clients at Curtis as we developed ideas over the year. Chelsea Comschles, our composer and client, was our inspiration behind our vision from the beginning.
This has been really exciting for me, especially because it's a natural extension of the way my creative process works, the way my mind works. Because every time I compose, no matter whether people see them or not, I always start with visuals, because I'm just a very visually oriented person and I have synesthesia. And most of the synesthetic connections I have are non-visual sense to something visual, like color or texture or something abstract. So that was like part of the composition process from the beginning. And it was really, I felt so lucky working with this amazing team of Drexel who took my ideas and just made them come to life. And I had the ability to tell them any scenes I was imagining. And they drew concept art, storyboarded it, and then modeled and animated created the objects and scenes to fit that vision?
Because Chelsea sees music as colors and imagery, it was my job as a concept artist to accurately represent her vision. She described to us scenes of crystalline structures and bioluminescent glows. From the descriptions that she gave us, I painted a series of grayscale images with the organ at the center, surrounded by the elements she described to us. I then transformed these scenes with the colors that define our composer's world. I'm honored to make her vision visible to others through our work.
Our colors are also the expressions of our musicians. We turn the concept art into 3 thematic stages characterized by the unique color palette and visuals. The first stage is water, which is populated by fish. The second is fire, which is red-orange and dominated by volcanoes. The third is air, which is blue-violet, spacious, and rainy.
To add more life to the scenes, I applied my skills as an animator. I animated the school of fish, as well as the floating hands of the conductor. It was important that elements moved in response to the music, so we animated assets to respond to musical input.
Once we had our concepts down, it was time to apply them to the HoloLens. We spent the past 9 months familiarizing ourselves with this device, getting to learn what the HoloLens is capable of, what its limitations are, and what it feels like to wear the device. This project involved all of our skills, from modeling, to rigging, to animating, and it got us to explore subjects we had very little experience with beforehand. Getting the program to respond to music in real time required the help of our computer science team. As we worked to fulfill Chelsea's vision, they worked to interpret information from the organ using MIDI. MIDI is a technology for recording and communicating audio information. It gave our programmers a way to record volume, pitch, and note, and it gave us a way to control our creation in scene. Our contributions are only a part of the experience. What we have made is tailored to fit with Chelsea's music and a stage hall of the auditorium we will be performing in. Our work premiered to the Curtis Institute on May 8th of this year, and what we're going to show is a snippet of that performance, from audience members and the HoloLenses to a virtual recreation of the holograms in the real-world space.
We took advantage of the HoloLens environment mapping to manipulate the space, and we enhanced the performance with real-world lighting. The performance also needed to be fluid, so rather than using a timer for our scene transitions, we decided to go with a score reader. This then culminated in a performance coordinated between senior CCI team member Day Cassie, along with freshman and resident audio technician Julie McLaughlin, who provided cues to synchronize events to the organ piece.
What we have showed is only a portion of the entire event. Throughout the day, we had 7 shows in 8 hours with up to 9 HoloLenses connected to a single server. We also had team members participating in audience discussion, maintenance, and setup between and during each of these hour-long performance sessions.
As the day progressed, we were excited to see the reactions of over 70 audience members, made up of students, faculty, and families.
What we created is an audio-visual experience that reacts to music and adjusts visuals in a shared environment between users. Our team's proud of our accomplishments, and our advisors have discussed future teams building upon what we've made. Even as we conclude this project and our time here at Drexel, we are excited to see what avenues future developers could explore.
This project is a capstone as well as a learning experience. This has been the journey of a bunch of game students applying our skills to platforms with constraints we've never had before. We've created a product for our clients at the Curtis Institute and have shown we're capable of applying our skills to new experiences.
From the Curtis Institute, we would like to thank our composer, Chelsea Comp, our organist, Claire Kurtz, our stakeholder, Greg Shero, and our line technician, Chris Fry. From here at Drexel, we would like to thank Julie McLaughlin, our computer science team comprised of Josh Shank, Dave Cassie, Christopher Horsey, Floyd Catino, and Brandon Cullum. Lastly, we would like to thank our advisor, Professor Michael Wagner, for guiding us through these past 9 months.
Everything we've shared with you here today has also been made available for you to view on our website. Please visit symphonyxr.com after the show for more information.
We're Symphony XR, this is our senior project, and we will see you upstairs.
Students trying to become wizards by fighting skeletons, old necromancer, and the bones of a mighty dragon. Sound like the Life of Drexel? Perhaps. Trials of the Rift by Evil Quack Studios.
Hello, we're Evil Quack Studios presenting our game Trials of the Rift. Fun fact, a group of ducks is called a bagling of ducks. Now that you know why we're called Evil Quack Studios, let's meet the bagling.
So who are these devilishly handsome masterminds? Well, I'm their Superoa, the project manager.
I'm Mickey Pars, the creative director.
I'm Obesa Boswell, the internal producer and lead audio engineer.
I'm Mark Kachi, the art director.
I'm Amanda Barbadoro, the assistant art director.
I'm Brian Jackson, the environment artist.
I'm Victor Guillermo, I'm the character artist. I'm Josh Martin, the 2D artist.
I'm Kevin Brady, and too, I'm a 2D artist.
And I'm Alex Rosick, the pro duck manager.
We also have the pleasure to work with Liz Waite and Malcolm Maslowski, our audio engineers, as well as our CS team, comprised of Zach Aldermick, Joseph Chu, Jeff Brown, Sam Calker, Noah Nam, and Dana Thompson.
Trials of the Rift is a top-down 2 versus 2 mini-game genre. These mini-games are the trials that players participate in as apprentice wizards vying for their mark of mastery. All the while, they'll be traveling through a magical realm controlled by the Rift Dragon.
As wizards, you have an arsenal of spells at your disposal. This includes a simple magic missile spell that you can use as much as you want. A wind spell that literally blows the competition away. An ice spell that freezes your opponents in their tracks while creating a nifty ice wall. And an ooze spell that puts your foes in a sticky situation by slowing them down and doing damage over a small area.
With spells in hand, these wizards are tasked with a variety of trials. They'll be asked to bounce crystals off opponents' walls into goals, chase after those tricky portaling necromancers, and head into enemy territory and retrieve gems. And last but not least, face off against the entity controlling the arena itself, the Rift Dragon.
This fearsome skeletal dragon will impede players' progress as they attempt to complete their trials. The Rift has a bit of a temper, however, and does not take it well when players start throwing spells across it. As the Rift gets angrier, it will eventually start sending out death bolts to attack players, and a death wave to wipe out all the players.
All these put together make up our game, which offers players a chance to cooperate, compete, sharpen their magical skills,
and accomplish a variety of tasks in a unique environment.
Yeah, I know. Pretty neat, right? Anyway, now that you know a little bit more about our evil creation, we'd like to take you through our process a bit. All 18 of us on this team have made a great deal of contributions to this project, and we'd like to take the time to show them all. So without further ado, let's get right to it.
Starting last summer, we met on a weekly basis to discuss potential design ideas. We began this process with rapid prototyping, placing our game in front of players to start receiving feedback and adjusting gameplay accordingly. After 30+ play tests and over 120 completed playtest surveys, our designers were able to adjust the gameplay flow, develop the trials, and fine-tune spells. It was weekly playtests like these that were so instrumental during our design process, so much so that we took time to organize extra playtests and even larger events, our most recent one being the Spring Tech Spectacular.
One of the most important assets in our playtesting was our parameters menu. This allowed us to adjust simple numbers to balance and change the game in the middle of the session. These parameters included player movement speed, the rate of fire on spells, and much more. We ended up having a lot of fun with this control, and we decided to give that control to the players, which is why Trials of the Rift will include a menu that lets you change the rules of the game itself, and we hope that players have fun being able to customize their own experience.
The player experience is very important to us, which led to one of our biggest design changes. This change was a shift from the frantic side-by-side progression of trials into a single shared progression of trials. As a result, players felt less confused by the chaos that the previous structure created. It allowed them to focus on teamwork and the trials themselves, as opposed to trying to understand how to navigate the space. As a party game, we wanted players to feel less intimidated on entering the game, and this change proved to do just that.
To further enhance the player experience, we turned to our spells. Originally, we had basic, simple projectiles. However, that just wasn't enough for our players. So we started fiddling with our parameters menu. But just changing the size, damage, and speed alone on spells didn't do it. Our players wanted a diverse toolset able to use at any trial. So we looked to changing how the spells were actually casted, and that gave our players the diverse toolset they wanted.
The trials proved to be a tricky mechanic to design for. Early on, we had 5 core objectives that we planned and developed. But after feedback from faculty, peers, and playtesters, we ended up cutting 2 of our original ideas as they had proven confusing. We wanted the trials to be easily understandable, but offer a variety of offensive and defensive strategies. So shifting course, we added in 1 more trial, leaving us with 3 core objectives and a final battle against the Rift Dragon and his skeleton army.
Now, you're probably wondering, where is all the evil? We had that same exact thought during this point in our development. The Rift can't be the only one wreaking havoc. This evil entity must have made to spice things up. So it all started during one meeting. We all gathered together, making random cheesy skeleton sounds. Think of Skeletor from He-Man. And so we thought, what if the Rift had a skeleton army? We originally designed our skeletons for a variety of situations. But in the end, the one that matched the game feel and pacing the most was this skeleton warrior. And to add an additional challenge, we created the Necromancer, an evil sorcerer that oversees skeletons and performs spells to hinder the players.
The application process with Rift minions, along with our young wizards, was long and difficult. It began early in the production process where our artists went through a rapid concept phase to establish quick designs to get a look and feel for our characters. After long meetings and discussions, we fleshed out which concepts would go on, and then which ones would go on to join this world and our class of wizard apprentices.
But the most difficult application to review was that of the Rift Dragon itself. This Rift Dragon could possibly be the last enemy our young apprentice wizards would ever face, and an icon of our game. So we spent hundreds of meetings and hours agonizing over how to design this so that it is memorable to our players, but also fearful to them. In the end, we are proud to show off our latest and evil creation, the Rift Dragon.
After countless hours and changes, our game has evolved from its humble beginnings to the game that you see now.
Before we take leave of the stage, we'd like to give thanks to those who helped us along the way, including our advisor, Tony Rowe, our CS team, our composer, Joseph St. Pierre, the Dragon Jedi for coming up with original choreography for our wizard apprentices, our family and friends for their undying support, our playtesters for their constant feedback, Inkster Prince for these awesome t-shirts, and last but certainly not least, the Dickop faculty and staff.
As we're evil, we're gonna stay up on stage and tell you our latest evil plans. Now we have a lot of evil plans that we'd like to carry out, including the eventual release of Trials of the Rift. So for further updates on this project and the other projects we have in the works, please follow us on our social media sites or come talk to us later today at our booth. Thanks again. We've been Evil Quack Studios. Have an evil rest of your day.
Love letters written, filled with hope, sent to the front lines, tragically sent back, unopened, unread. Return to Me by Sidewinder Studios.
Hey everyone, we're Sidewinder Studios and we're here to present our character-driven animation, Return to Me. I hope you enjoy. Until this time, I found myself slipping more and more into despair the longer I sit in my own silence. It's been so long since I heard from you, and it hurts so much. Ever since the information quarantine was put in place, I find myself more desperate to reach out for you, even though all my letters have returned to me. And while I try to remain hopeful of your return, I am haunted by memories of my father. They drown my sleep with nightmares and fill my heart with joy. Without your letters, I have no way of knowing that you are truly fine, and it kills me when you are. Please tell me, I love you and miss you so much. Please return to me. Come home slowly.
you enjoyed our animation. My name is Symphony St. I'm the team lead.
I'm Joseph Rivera. I'm the crowd specialist.
Michelle Gibson, character artist.
Aaron Sandin, environmental modeler and camera and lighting technician.
I'm Al Vargas, environmental modeler.
I'm Trevor Corson, environmental modeler.
I am Vincent. I am environmental artist and compositor.
I'm Ethan Bohan. I'm the web and graphic designer.
So, Return to Me was originally a short story and one of many ideas we came up with during the summer when we were trying to debate what we wanted to do for student projects. When we decided to further develop Return to Me, we knew we would have a really big challenge to face. We were taking this written story where all of the characters' feelings, thoughts, emotions were plain as day for anyone to read, and we were turning it into this short animation with little to no dialogue. We couldn't just tell the viewers what was going on, we had to show them, and that is where our adventure begins.
For our animation, we went with the steampunk aesthetic. We researched buildings dating back to the 1800s. We started with old Philadelphia homes and buildings, but when we realized that those styles didn't quite fit our style, we expanded our search to places like London.
While developing the dock, we needed a better understanding of how one actually looks and functions. When researching, we chose one that actually matches our criteria, the Royal Victoria Dock in London. This is the dock that we use in the film. In addition, we continue our research to gather more references on buildings. We've ended up with mills, factories, and warehouses that also created the Victorian era. By combining all these in the environment, we can create the dock that is both believable and matches on aesthetics.
Like the dock, we felt that a Victorian era style would fit our story. So for the opening shot, we researched and referenced Victorian parlors to give a home for our character. Numerous objects were created, such as mantles, writing desks, baseboards, and crown molding, in order to make a realistic and believable Victorian parlor.
And here we have the Victorian post office. This is an environmental setting that was supposed to be used, however, it was cut.
Our main character, Ava, started off with initial concept sketches that we used to visualize and develop how we wanted her facial features as well as clothing to look. And from those sketches, we developed her into a 3D model that we used to animate, equipped it with a hair and skirt simulation to get fluid hair and cloth motions. We did the same process with our husband character, Ty, who also started with initial concept sketches that we used to make a fully rigged 3D model. And we also had a postman character. However, as mentioned earlier, our post office had to be decommissioned, so our postman was out of a job. However, we were able to redevelop him into a soldier character.
To return our lead heroine's husband home, we needed something to ferry him back into the arms of his love. We needed a ship. Given that our setting is a floating steampunk city, we eventually decided on an airship. After going through many, many trials and errors in concepting this airship, we eventually decided on a design of light. However, with the growing scope of our project, and as the ship and the crowd became more and more vast, the ship no longer sufficed. So we eventually had to redesign into what we have now.
So to bring our animation to life, we decided to take advantage of the technology that Drexel has available to us. After much discussion and research, we decided to go with a mix between hand animation and motion capture. By using the motion capture technology, we were able to record our motion capture actors, their actions and subtle movements that they did, and implement them into our animation to make it a little more authentic.
We utilized the abundance of motions available to us to bring our stage to life. So we were able to make our crowds to fill the large spaces of the dock, the ship, and the street.
For our team's website, we went with a more minimalistic design to really highlight all the amazing animation work we've done over the past 9 months. Like the letters in the beginning of our animation, our film logo is actually hand-drawn, then scanned into our animation.
And as we come to the end of our project, we wanted to thank a few people. We wanted to thank Nick, our project advisor. We wanted to thank Robert Lloyd, the senior project director. And we wanted to thank our friends and families for supporting us and loving us through this journey that we have come. Now, if you want to learn more about us or the project, please come and visit us at our table upstairs. And you can also visit our website at www.sidewinderstudios.com. Thank you.
Race across the city, not a bike or a car, but like a hero, swinging and rocketing far above the sidewalks. Override by Senior Robo Games.
Hello, everyone. We're here today we are Senior Robo Games, and we're here to present our VR game, Override. I'm Ryan McGlennon, the team lead.
Nick Leffler, producer.
I'm Vince Quarles, the programming lead.
I'm Chase Brandis, I'm the designer.
I'm Brent Petrosky, artist.
Connor Randall, UI and UX.
I'm Rohan Dahlia, an artist.
I'm Dan Silva, lead artist. I'm Brandon Percy, assistant artist.
Override is a fast-paced virtual reality action game. Players use their abilities to swing through a retro cyber cityscape environment. As players are navigating through this environment, they have to be sure to dodge obstacles in their effort to achieve the fastest time. All right, so let's hop right in. With this, so with this project, we wanted to fill a void in the virtual reality market. Many games feature movement styles such as analog movement with like a joystick or teleportation, which usually breaks up gameplay and causes some disorientation for players, and it lacks the engaging gameplay that we want to achieve with Override. So with Override, we want the player to feel like as if they're moving through like a fast-paced environment, and that's what we really want to hone in on, and really deliver an immersive VR experience. The player's main ability is the attractor, the attractor, which the player uses for swinging through the environment. The player aims with the controller and clicks the trigger to activate the attractor, as shown by the blue beam, and the player is continuously pulled towards the attach point. The player can pull the controller back, which will give them an extra boost in speed, which is indicated by the blue beam turning purple. With this extra speed, the player can use this to gain extra verticality as well as making sharper turns.
Player's secondary ability is repulsor. Players can hold in on the touchpad to repel forces out from the gauntlets. These can be used to make quick adjustments in the air, gain altitude quickly, or hover in place. When combined with the attractor, it provides a greater degree of freedom of movement in the track environment.
Override has 2 tracks. Each track has 3 challenges each, with different paths that the players can take, as well as obstacles that they will face.
So as for obstacles, we have a few. One such type are pistons, which are large pieces of moving machinery that can crush the player if they're not careful to avoid them. We also have 2 types of flying vehicles in Override, which are hovering cars and trains, and the player can attach to them and land on them to get across the city. They also have to be careful to avoid getting hit by them. We also have laser turrets that will fire at the player if they get within range of them, so you have to be careful to watch out for those big red laser beams. And lastly, we have boostrings, which are little power-ups that are strewn throughout the player's path in each challenge that they can go through for a boosted speed, as well as a bonus to their score at the end.
The final gameplay aspect is the score. The faster you finish, the higher you score. At the end of each challenge, you are awarded a medal, and these medals are awarded to you based on player performance. Player performance is affected by 3 factors. The first being the time you finish the challenge. The next one is the number of collisions you made during the challenge. And finally, the number of speed rings you go through.
Now we'd like to show you a little bit of our process for developing Override, as well as some of the lessons that we've learned when developing a VR game. When we started seeing the project, we knew we wanted to tackle a unique and upcoming technology. Virtual reality was something that always excited us, so we worked hard to make our mark in the genre. Early on, we faced many difficulties, as it was really difficult to pick out mechanics that would be compelling in VR, but eventually we settled on a movement scheme that would give the player an intense experience.
So we took a lot of inspiration from various sources over the development of Override. We took a lot of inspiration from the game Superhot VR for their action-packed gameplay. We also took inspiration from the game Cluster Truck, where they focus on a single core mechanic and use that to influence the design processes. We also took a lot of inspiration from the perilous environment that Windlands offers.
Those of you who have been following us since the very beginning know that we have gone through many, many iterations. We basically reinvented ourselves on a weekly basis to see what we could and could not do in VR. Our early iterations had players traversing through the environment by changing their gravitational orientation. Well, this caused disorientation due to sudden shifts in the camera movement without player input. This lack of player input left players wondering where they were.
These early versions really helped us figure out what kind of movements players are capable of handling in VR and what kind of VR boundaries we're able to push. We ended fall quarter with a wall-centric movement scheme where players can ride on walls to cross gaps and reach the finish line. We also dedicated fall quarter to producing an art pipeline, but with art heavily dependent on functionality, we were pretty limited on the scope of art styles we were able to achieve. Art evolved as much as the project did as well.
So at the end of fall term, we were lucky enough to be able to go to the Too Many Games event. There, more than 100 people were able to try Override, and from there, we knew that we wanted to change our movement scheme.
Winter term was dedicated to refining the player's movement scheme. We finally implemented our swinging mechanics and moved towards giving players full control over their momentum. Playtesting data showed that players really enjoyed this style of movement, and we noted a significant decrease in motion sickness and disorientation once it was implemented.
While adding this new movement scheme, we also wanted to add in combat, but it proved to be too much for players. We also wanted to add in objective-based missions that were set throughout the environment, but it proved to be too much level design for the team.
Having a core mechanic set, our main goal for the spring quarter was to lock down on our scope and vision. We refined key elements. To allow playtesting and tweaking, like the attractor and repulsor, to fit our main action. And we also shifted to a more linear level design, finding that linear levels were a lot more easy to design, iterate, and test on.
So towards the end of fall, we were really focused on tweaking and adjusting our previous assets from the winter quarter to fit the more track-centric environment. On top of that, we were really focused on honing our core game loop. That meant layering in challenges through obstacles and tuning the game systems and scoring based off the player's mastery of the challenge mechanic. So art has really gone a long way on this project. We've taken a lot of we've learned a lot of lessons trying to optimize things for VR. And very early on, we realized that we need to keep things as efficiently as possible, which is why we went with the low-quality style. Towards the end of fall, we had an ancient room themed, but with a shift to the new movement system, we switched to a more abstract retro theme.
In the winter quarter, we shifted to a less abstract art style that featured a more city-like environment. And in the spring quarter, once we shifted to a more linear track design, we repurposed all of our open world assets to a linear design. We also learned a lot about proper source control practices, a lot of trial and error and tiers, mostly tiers. And
using that, the newfound practices, we were able to really utilize our iterative process.
As you can see, we experimented and pushed the boundaries of virtual reality. And as a result, we found our greatest asset was you, the players. Over the past 3 quarters, we've had over 200 playtesters, which have led from sweeping changes to fine-tuning our mechanics. This constant iteration is the reason we have the game we do today.
The development of Override was a learning experience for all of us since the beginning. We knew at the beginning that we wanted to push the limits of VR development and see what kind of game we could make, and the only way we were able to do that was with a rapid iteration and development cycle.
Thank you all for joining with us today. I'd like to give special thanks to Robert Lloyd, the Senior Project Director, and Jeremy Thompson, our Senior Project Advisor. Special thanks to our composer, Colin McCook, who did all of the gameplay tracks that are currently in Override. Special thanks to the Jacob faculty. Special thanks to all of our friends and family for all their love and support. And of course, a very special thanks to all of our playtesters. We would not be here without you. So, of course, after the presentations are done, please feel free to come up and give Override a try and see if you can set a high score. And of course, be sure to follow us on our social media at Cedar Rojo Games, or check out our website at cedarrojogames.com. Thank you, everyone.
Storytelling with childhood magic and struggling to find the ability to create again and appreciate the warmth of the hug of your children. Tribute by Synapse FX.
Hello, we are Synapse Effects, an ambitious group of visual effects and animation students, and we want to present our senior thesis and visual effects film tribute. I'm Eric, I'm the visual effects supervisor and technical director.
I'm Jay, I'm the lead compositor and visual effects editor.
I'm Aaron Wong, I'm a character animator, storyboard artist.
I'm Mike Carlina, I'm the environment lead.
I'm Ray Amagal, I'm visual effects artist and procedural modeling work.
I'm Ashley, I'm the hair effects artist.
I'm Dan Locko, and I'm a character animator.
Since day one here at Drexel, we wanted to shoot a visual effects film for our senior project. So we grabbed a bunch of film friends, including our director, Tristan Allen, and a bunch of other people who had these same ambitions in mind. We had several heads of the departments, and also a total of 57 people that had their hands in the pot for this project. This was going to be a challenge for us, and we knew that, but we just wanted to make the first successful visual effects film collaboration here at Drexel, and that's why we did it. Also, tribute is too long to show you the entire film today, so we'll be showing you an abridged version of the final edit. But for some context, tribute is about Leo, a father and former artist, and also his daughter, Mona. They're currently going through some grief because he recently lost his wife, and they're both still grieving. And yeah, so basically, they need to get over this. Sorry, guys. So yeah, no, that's pretty much what the film is about. So we're going to show this to you now. And with that being said, please try to go.
Whoa. Are you doing art again?
Looking through some things. Don't touch that. Aren't you supposed to be eating still?
I wasn't hungry.
Okay. Did you brush your teeth like I asked you to? Go to bed. Come on. I got some work to do, so I need some practice, okay?
Here. We should take CD. Well, don't feel. You help me on everything I can.
Thanks.
Good morning.
Thanks.
Mr. Bernhardt told me to open class today.
Does that make yourself feel better? Not chocolate?
No.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes, I'm sure.
Hey, honey, I'm talking to your favorite.
I already said no.
Oh,
I just wanted to see.
you're not supposed to be in here.
Why not?
This is mine and your mother's workshop.
I just wanted.
Look, Mama, you broke the rules. All that I ask is just one space for a little privacy.
I just wanted to see Mom's things. You never talk about her anymore.
One of these things are hard to talk about.
But I want to talk about it. She would have let me see her art.
Well, I'm very different from your mother.
She's the exact opposite, really. She's a lot like you, actually. Funny, and creative, and she would make me smile even when I didn't want to. She was so annoying sometimes that I almost forgot how much I loved her. I'm sorry that I've been so busy. I needed some more alone time so I could focus on work.
I don't like being alone.
No, of course not.
So there's going to be additional screens to showcase the rest of the film, but for right now, we're going to talk about our process a little bit. Good visual effects always support the story being told, so to do that, we had to always keep the story in mind. This was especially challenging because the story had constant evolution throughout visual effects production.
In developing the environment, we wanted to use this space to further reflect the insights of Leo's character. The concept of the mind space became a representation of Leo's inner workings, where he could represent himself through his artistic process and emotional state. We wanted the space to feel both like an art museum and an artistic studio, where Leo could draw from his inspirations and create and bring his art to real life. Leo's art wall, it visually equates to a Pinterest page. It's a collection of inspirations, past artwork, and family memories that build who he is today.
To complete this infinite wall, we use procedural or math-based modeling, which allows us to iterate and animate it in real time. In this space, Leo is free to work unbound by limitation of the real world. Specifically, the paint block simulation allows us to express his intimate creative process.
In addition, there are areas in Leo's mind where he could push past memories away. In the areas surrounding the atrium, Leo hides his life memories that he chooses to not address, such as his late wife, Rosa. Throughout the film, we also use the mind space as a to visually echo Leo's state of mind and inner character conflict. As the conflict rises, the lighting breaks, the space becomes more cluttered, and the memories he pushes away come out into the open.
To support Leo on his story, during his story, we created Stitchy, a stuffed animal. This gave Leo someone to push away in the mind space, to echo the distance between him and his daughter. We created both a plush to interact with on set, as well as a 3D character that we could bring to life through our animations.
In Stitchy's design, we need to create a character that was both stylized and expressive, while being realistic enough to feel like he's in the same space as Leo.
We look to real-life examples such as foxes, dogs, and squirrels, trying to find the balance between realism and the look of a stuffed animal. Creating 3D concept art to find the right look for the pattern of the fur.
After the concepts were made, I was given the task of modeling and reading the character, which is the process of creating the skin, skeletal structure, and animal controllers for the animators to make the character move. I utilize a method called cage modeling, which is the process of modeling and rigging the character simultaneously, so I can lock down proportions for the character and give a rig to the animators as soon as possible. Then I could add more details like facial expressions to animate later.
Look at the mechanics of different animals to get a better understanding of how to move and behave in 3D. We made sure to base CG's movements on smaller animals, such as cats and squirrels, to sell the realistic aspect, while animating his face to convey more expressive emotions.
While the animators were working, I was making continuous iterations to the look of the groom and the movement of the fur, to be tested with our animations in scene. In total, it took 19 different hair systems to bring you the fuzzy character you see today.
In the fall, we decided to have a smaller test shoot with our film team to get real shots with the same camera we were using on later. This gave us the opportunity to walk through our visual effects from start to finish and see what was working, what was problematic, and how to change accordingly.
Which gave us animators plenty of time to work with the character very early on. This helped us master his movements and create personality, regardless of whether or not the shot made to the final film.
In January, we shot the real film. This is a very large and fast-paced set, so we had to be very active in supervising the visual effects without getting in the way of other departments. Some of our tasks included setting up yellow tracking dots to figure out the real-life camera motions, as well as supervising the lighting of the actor as if you were actually in the 3D space. Another task was interacting with the actor directly to sell his performance with the actor, or with the character, and recording color, reflection, matte surface, and lighting reference to better match our 3D renders to our live action footage.
Many of our shots were purposefully challenging, but would allow the actor to physically interact with the space around him, which really helps you believe it. We did the same thing with the character. Anytime the actor had to physically interact with the character, we had our reference stuffed animal to act alongside with.
To push this even further, we had our character interact with our actors through touch. This was a challenge for both animators and compositors alike. This combination of matching outline with direct interaction between the character and the actor helps the audience believe CG lives in the same space as Leo and Lana.
So to collect all of this footage and assets that we are creating and to constantly work between two different departments that really aren't used to working together, we had to create a very detailed pipeline, basically from scratch. The main focus of this pipeline is to stay as non-linear as possible, which means that any artist can work at any production step at the same time without holding up someone else. This was essential because our constantly evolving story required multiple iterations of every step of the process. One of these steps, of course, was compositing. Multiple render passes were created so that we could isolate different shot elements and really push each shot. This included altering the fur to look more soft and fuzzy, as well as adjusting and animating lights individually so we had full control of the look of the film. Also, we used depth to exaggerate the atmospheric perspective that was a characteristic of the mind space. We also created several set extensions, and in total we had 75 visual effects shots. Overall, that was 7.5 minutes of visual effects, so we had a lot to do, and we have a lot of people to thank.
We want to thank Andy Clark, who made the completion of this project even possible, and we want to thank Rob Lloyd and Karen Kelly for facilitating this collaboration between departments.
We want to thank Don Parker for allowing us to use Shotgun Studio, a industry standard pipeline management tool. We also want to thank Amy Sue for letting us use some of her 3D models in the film, and Francesca Simeo for doing a lot of paint and rubber tasks for us. Of course, we want to thank all of you because as we started as we started off on this journey to create a tribute to art, we ended up realizing what we really wanted to make was more of a tribute to family.
If you want to learn more about us, you can follow us at tributefilms.com or on Facebook. We'll be screening the full film throughout the summer. However, the first two screenings will be tomorrow at the Urban Annex and on Saturday at the Kimmel Center. We are Synapse Effects. Thank you for all being here, and we hope to see you at the next one.
What is truth? Who done it? We'll drag and drop the truth into the light, but perhaps we will never know what really happened in the shadows. Shadow of a Doubt by Puppeteer Productions.
Hello, we're Puppeteer Productions. introductions, and this is our game, Shadow of the Doubt. So I'm Tyler, team lead and lead animator.
I'm Lady, I'm the program lead.
I'm Julian, I'm the lead artist.
I'm Kevin, I'm an environment artist and UI designer. I'm Mark, I'm also a UI artist and environment designer.
I'm Amalia, I'm user experience design researcher and webmaster.
I'm Vincent, I'm the story developer and the animator.
Our game, Shadow of the Doubt, is an adaptation of an existing book called In the Grove. The author discussed the objective truth through his story. In the story, a man was killed inside a grove, but all 3 months back, all confessed they committing the murder, including the dead man himself. So who is the murderer? Shadow of the Doubt, the original book called In the Grove, has already been transformed into several different forms of media, including the famous movie Rashomon. And the reason why we transformed it into a game is that we think the game is more interactive. It is a narrative game, so we have 2 writers from screenwriting help us develop the story and the dialogue. We also have a music team, Kobe, Grace, and Shiloh help us develop our unique music background musics, which help us create a more comprehensive gameplay experience. In the game, you play as the detective. You can search for clues. You can solve puzzles and quests. You can also talk to characters, talk to witnesses and suspects in order to get involved or get to know this murder mystery. But the most important aspect of our game is our dialogue.
So our game is adapted from the novel In the Grove. When I first time tried to convert the testimony from the book into the in-game dialogue, it was not easy. The book is through the perspective of the characters, but in terms of our narrative game, the issue was the fact that the game needs the interaction between both the player and the characters. Each conversation needs to be unique and contain information that the player can use to proceed further into the game. Since this game is heavily influenced by the dialogue, talking to different NPCs is important for collecting information about the case. So what we did was to pick important information from the testimony and transform it into the questions that may help to lead the player to make decisions. After implementing part of the dialogue, we decided that we will need to add 2 new characters, of whom were not original in the book, to make the in-game story smoother. First, I focused on the logistics of adding 2 new characters to make sure it benefits our interpretation rather than deduct from it. And I had some help from the script team, whose main task was to fix and virtualize the story in a way that made sense to our version of the narrative. After the first 2 turns, the conclusion we came to was to make the conversation shorter and easier to read, so the player would feel more inclined to proceed further into the narrative. Along with the dialogue, another important aspect of our game is the art style.
So the visuals for our game are inspired by shadow puppetry. And while we wanted to establish a semblance of originality, we wanted to preserve the aesthetic provided by the medium. This yielded a number of problems, particularly in our environments. Typically in shadow puppetry, characters interact on what is essentially a blank canvas with 1 or 2 environment props. For our game, this was visually disinteresting, especially since everything was in black. So our solution to this was to color all of our props and populate them throughout each scene more realistically. This in turn yielded one of our biggest visual hurdles.
So the biggest problem that we faced was this clashing between our characters and their environments. This was caused by multiple reasons, such as the characters and the environments both being overly saturated in color and texture, or the characters themselves being partially see-through due to their cutout characteristics, or above all else, the lack of depth in our scenes caused everything to meld and muddy together. To fix these problems, we started with our characters. We looked to the cutout patterns running throughout their bodies and decided to reduce their transparency. This created a contrast that really helped our players distinguish between character and environment. While this was a great change, it didn't really answer the questions that our environments themselves had risen.
Our solution here was to introduce parallax to our scenes. What this basically means is that we took our fully two-dimensional game and turned it into a three-dimensional game that uses two-dimensional assets. This created a nice feeling of depth in our scene, as objects closer to the camera will be moving much faster than objects further away while the main character moves through the scenes. These combined changes helped us realize our initial goal of creating a puppet theater set style environment, while also keeping a vibrant and cohesive world.
Along with moving the art style forward through conducting playtesting, we were able to improve overall gameplay. This resulted in changes in the user interface dialogue system and what information was initially provided to the player. Originally, interactive elements of the dialogue system did not appear to trigger more actions. For example, the continue button originally was placed inside the dialog box and did not appear as most users are used to seeing a button. Now, as you can see, the button is separate from the dialog box and appears more commonly as one would see a button. Another problem was that after the player interacted with an NPC, non-player character, they received information and weren't sure what to do with the information. They knew that they received a task, but didn't know how to go about the task. Now, we implemented a quest box, which clearly stated what the task was once they completed the conversation. These are just some of the changes that help create a stronger game and help us achieve the overall goal of giving the player a sense of ambiguity.
So one of the major walls we had to breach whilst creating our masterpiece was translating the ambiguity from the book to the game. So in the book, the ambiguity is based off the idea that all three suspects have admitted to killing the samurai. The samurai admits to suicide, and the way they achieve this is by having the medium contact his dead body through the spirit realm. Since all three suspects, being the wife, the dead man, and the criminal, have admitted to killing the murder, or committing the murder, who is telling the truth? In this instance, truth is relative, meaning it is impossible to determine who is telling the truth. In order for us to translate the ambiguity from the short story's iteration of the movie, we had to do exactly what the short story intended. Considering the perception given forces us to rely on presumption and subjective truth, the player is forced to give credibility to a player or a character and interpret or have their own interpretation of who actually committed the murder. Here's how we intend to achieve that same purpose with our game. So, in the game, right after the player collects clues from the grove, they will be instructed by a police officer to select one of the three people whom they believe committed the murder. Once the player makes this selection, an invisible tally will be added to our tally system under the assumption of whomever they picked. So, for instance, if the player believes that the man committed suicide, then an invisible tally will be placed under that assumption. Throughout the game, the player will be talking to multiple different locals and gather multiple, or have multiple conversations with each one, and each conversation will have an effect on this tally system. This is best explained through our example of our player asking 3 separate questions about the murders in this local. So, in this first example, the player picks the 3rd question, and this is would add a tally under the assumption to the wife being guilty. In our second example of the same conversation, the player asks the 2nd question, which would add a tally under the assumption that the man committed suicide. The player also has the ability to take tallies away from the system, and this is best explained through our 3rd example of the player asking the 1st question, which would essentially take a point away from the suicide claim. So once the player is done talking to however many locals they want to, they will then be instructed to go back to the police office and once again select who they believe committed the murder. This would essentially add 1 extra tally point to the final claim. And once the player gets this final claim, they will be given 1 of 9 endings. And each one of these 9 endings shows an alternative to their initial idea, skewing who they originally thought committed the murder and changing the perception of who actually committed the crime. We feel we achieved the purpose of the book, which is essentially to have the player create their own ending with the tools given. Unlike other narrative games, Shadow of a Doubt leaves the player questioning what more they could have added to their own story. So the point of our game is essentially not to have a clear ending, but have the player, or challenge the player to interpret and create their own ending. We'd like to give a special thanks to Robert E. Lloyd, Frank Lee, the Digital Media Department, our script team, our music team, friends and family, and whatever sanity we have left. Thank you very much.
Get together with your very best friends and completely pull the ground out from underneath them. Throw them down into a dark vine-filled abyss, making some capricious deities happy. It's a party game. Groundless by Route 121.
Hi everyone, we're Route 121 Games. I'm Jessica, the team lead and producer.
I'm Arden, the producer and designer. I'm Kyle, producer and marketing.
I'm Tyler, the technical lead.
I'm Gabe, the visual lead.
I'm Amy, the 2D artist. I'm Jillian, the character artist.
I'm Kevin, environmental artist and designer.
I'm John, technical artist.
I'm Cole, programmer and designer.
And I'm Jackson, sound designer and composer.
And we're going to present to you our game Groundless. So Groundless is a 2 versus 2 local multiplayer game where you play as the Dusk and Dawn Seekers, who have the ability to build and destroy the ground and walk on. Work together with your teammates to summon your guardian deity. Now, let's show you that in action.
In Groundless, it's all about the ground. Players need to move, and they can only interact through building and destroying it. Each of your actions is a double-edged sword. You need to build ground in order for you to walk on, but the opposing team can use that ground as well. It's the same thing with destroying. Players need to destroy the ground to knock other players off, but you can knock yourself or your teammate off in the process. All of your actions shape the movement of the game, with building creating moves for everyone to take, and destroying taking those moves away. Because building and destroying are core aspects of our game, it became one of our first major design challenges. Since players perform these actions all the time, we wanted them to be inherently fun to interact with. Now, fun differs from person to person, but we found that fast, frantic, and dynamic movements were really fun for our game. The problem is, a lot of games of building and destroying, their actions are slower, more deliberate, or in discrete parts, like using building blocks or making a whole pre-made structure. Through iteration and prototyping, we found that our game, that casting a path of built or destroyed ground from our players gave them the most options while keeping a fast pace.
With our main mechanic designed, it was time to lay the groundwork for our main mechanic. Yeah, thanks for laughing. We started with primitive building blocks just to test the building and destroying, and then moved on to triangles to get more accurate paths. However, this negatively affected our performance because we had over 8,000 triangles on screen at once. So, with a big tech push, we ended up with the final ground that you see in our game today, which is actually one singular image that we're kind of painting and erasing, similar to applications like Photoshop.
When we set out to make our game, we knew we wanted it to be 2v2 local co-op, an experience that you can enjoy with your friends right next to you on the same couch. That communication and relationship you have with your friends while playing a video game was integral to the experience we wanted to craft in our senior project. So starting with our first game mode ritual, we emphasized the steps and coordination required to complete a ritual, having both members from either team step on the summoning circle together, as you guys can see on the left, and then having them retrieve offerings, bringing them back to secure points. Now, when you're competing against another team while doing this, things can get kind of hectic, as you guys can see on the right, but ultimately at the end of the match, one team will win either in the name of Dusk or Dawn.
A really important part of our game design was making the game expressive. Even though each player has the same tools and uses them in the same context, we really wanted individual actions to feel like they had meaning and weight to the game. We struggled to do this in a 2 versus 2 context, but our final design allows for a lot of individuality and gives a talented player the opportunity to express their skill and every player the opportunity to get better over time. Part of good game design is also making it so that your actions in game aren't just fun, but very very satisfactory to do. Building and destroying was always fun, but adding a couple slight nuances to the cast, such as curving and detonating them early, added a lot of expression and a whole other layer of game feel.
For additional emotional response and to convey a sense of progression to the players, we wanted to emphasize and build up to the most important parts of our game. When starting a match, the summoning circle is neutral and only emits a subtle aura. This is the stage when players first vie for control of the summoning circle. When players successfully return an offering and score a point, the summoning circle will react and become excited to the respective team's offering. And finally, when a team returns the match point, the summoning circle will glow and expand in a grand finale, indicating the victorious team.
Color played a big part in this impact. Color palettes were designed to help show players what they need to read, understand, and feel for those emotional moments. Take Ritual, for example. When blue Dusk members capture the summoning circle, both the circle and the offering spawn in their team's blue color. Likewise, when red Dawn members capture the summoning circle, both the offerings and circles spawn in their team's red color.
For the theming of our game world, we were heavily influenced by solar punk aesthetics, combining nature and technology in a fantasy setting. We took inspiration from various Studio Ghibli movies, as well as Avatar: The Last Airbender. Groundless takes place in the Outgrowth, a dense forest in which the ruins of a forgotten city float over a vine-covered abyss. In our main game mode, our 2 teams, the Dusk and Dawn Seekers, compete to summon their respective guardian spirits, Lumon and Solon.
Our characters wear masks that resemble the appearance of their guardian spirits, with the Dusk tribe wearing masks with antlers on them and the Dawn tribe wearing masks with horns on them. These masks, moose, deer, ram, and kudu, help to separate the 2 teams as well as give each character a distinct silhouette. Because our game is viewed top-down and from a distance, we had to take great care in designing our characters to equal. We gave them large heads with small torsos and long legs to help their animations read better. We made sure their clothing wasn't too complicated, and we gave the female character a long braid and the male character a long scarf to help show their movement.
For the music, we looked at the soundscapes of Ori and the Blind Forest, Zelda Breath of the Wild, as well as Shoji Saishi's work on Studio Ghibli movies and Impressionism. For the music, we decided an orchestral score would work best with strings and woodwinds as the primary focus. The music reflects a hectic battle between tribes that evolves over time, giving players an audible sense of progression and building tension and excitement as more points are scored. With sounds, I took trips to parks and forests nearby to get rock and foliage sounds for rebuilding and destroying the ground, and the rest of the sounds were made up of various metallic objects, glass and ice breaking and scraping, my own voice, as well as a wide variety of synthesizers. What we're going to show you next is a breakdown of the layers of effects we use for one of the more complex sounds in the game, the end screen wind effect.
Throughout our journey, one thing we struggled with was teaching players how to play our game. Groundless has very complex gameplay that can become overwhelming if explained poorly. To tackle this, we broke the game down into smaller, more focused pieces that players would understand. Through iteration and practice, we finally nailed down how to explain Groundless to all types of players.
Another challenge we had was finding what players found confusing when playing their game. We had to take their feedback and interpret that as developers so that we can make our game stronger for it. Throughout the year, we hold multiple playtests from fall, winter, and spring, iterating over our game and making it different every time to see how it would perform with players. As you guys can see from the chart, We took a slight dip in the month's return, but by the end of the year, we made Groundless a stronger game overall that everyone can enjoy.
Another thing we were really passionate about was publishing Groundless by the end of our time here at Chestnut. This would be difficult because that means that we would reach stages of development that we really hadn't reached before, like polishing a game, which is adding that extra shine before you finish it. It was something we often talked about, but seldom practiced. So to understand what we could do, we went to the Game Developers Conference and talked with other developers and played games in our industry. There we could figure out what Groundless lacked and what we could improve on in order to reach their levels of professional quality. This really motivated us to improve ourselves as individuals and really improve the overall experience of our game.
We really love this game and wanted to show it to the world because we knew we had something special. In our early playtests, we could see enjoyment and emotion players were having, so we set a goal for ourselves to playtest it, showcase it at as many events as possible. Some of these events include the Game Masters exhibit at the Franklin Institute, Philly Game Mechanics, and PAX East.
The biggest event by far was PAX East, which is a large game convention that has more than 80,000 attendees. We had a booth right in the heart of the indie show floor, which gave us access to tons of playtesters. Actually, we had about 1,500 people come play our game. We also gave away more than 1,000 pieces of merch, had 250 email signups, and even sold some shirts. Overall, it was a great experience, and we found people who loved our game almost as much as we do.
As you may already know, Route 121 is officially a company. When we got the chance to put our game on Microsoft's Xbox game system, we jumped at it. Since we have a little bit of time until our Xbox deadline, we're going to spend the rest of the summer creating new game modes, polishing them, and releasing them on Xbox and Steam, the largest PC game market, at the end of the summer.
We're really proud of our design, and we've pushed hard to make Groundless a full product. So in addition to our main game mode, we've added Control and Sacrifice, two game modes that are variable for 2 to 4 players, allowing for more ways and more people to play Groundless.
So before we close out, we'd like to give a special thanks to our advisor, Dr. Ji-Chen Zhu, our professor, Robert Lloyd, our video editor, Bethany Label, and all of our friends, family, and playtesters who supported us throughout this process. We'd love to see you after the show, and thank you so much.
Deep-seated mistrust and fear of the other, and a child's attempt to break through the common ground and find beautiful music. Unstrung by Hop Clip Studio.
Studio. I'm Andrew Bishop, the team lead and technical director.
I'm Chelsea Wood, the web and graphic designer.
I'm Shanee, texture and lighting artist.
I'm Stevie Matthews, sound producer and character animator.
I'm Shannon Sands, concept artist and animator.
I'm Nicole Kula, character modeler and animator.
I'm Ryan James McHugh, producer and animator.
And I'm Brandon Mullings, environment design, animator, and dance instructor.
And that up there is Dave Moriello, our part-time faculty advisor, full-time critic.
For the last 9 months, we've been working tirelessly on our animated short film, Unstrung. But before we show it to you, we'd like for you to meet the 4 stars of the story.
First, there's Baby Ruth, a bubbly yet naive fairy child.
Next is Sweet Susie, a tender yet mischievous fairy mom.
There's also Mama Kay, a strong yet stubborn fairy mother.
And finally, there's Will, a talented yet intolerant musician.
And now we'll show you our film, Unstrung.
Enjoy!
Thank you. We're so proud to finally be able to show this to you. It was a lot of fun to make, but it was also a lot of work.
And now we'd like to share some process and stories during the making of Unstrung.
Hotclick Studio began in December of 2016 as a team of aspiring storytellers who gathered around two common goals: to enhance our skills as artists and to create a cohesive visual experience.
To do this, we decided to make a short film with a lot of character.
To begin our journey, we began to write, and we came up with a whole bunch of concepts, characters, settings, and plots to explore. But one story in particular jumped out at us. It was a tale about three fairies and a tolerant shop owner, and a small yet strong act of kindness.
We were drawn to the theme of overcoming boundaries to bridge the gap between people. Though some of the details of our story changed over time, these core concepts remain the same throughout.
During our revisions, we took a lot of inspiration from the 1960s, as this was a time of cultural and social revolution. And we felt that this fit our story. With all this in mind, we started to design our characters.
From character concepts, to models, to wardrobe and hair, to textures, our characters started to form their visual identities.
In addition to creating the characters' visuals, we had to come up with a look for the film. We created hundreds of storyboards throughout this process. And we used these to make our animatic, which was the visual interpretation of the script.
We also spent a lot of time in developing our environment for our story. Instead of putting the fairies in their typical woodland environment, we decided to place them in a modern city. Much of the story takes place in Will's musically inspired coffee shop, the Double Bar, which we felt paralleled Will and Ruth's love of music.
Part of this process was also filling out the world beyond the characters. We put a lot of effort into filling out parts of the shop, such as these posters depicting faux 60s bands and the No Fairies sign.
With our characters and the environment ready to go, we were prepared to move to the next step of production, rigging. This involves giving our characters skeletons, such as these, and the animators controls, such as these, to move them around. As you can see, there were a lot of controls, so for 4 characters, this could easily have taken months. But using a rigging system that we developed, we were able to do it in minutes. But no matter how fast I was able to rig them, the animators broke them faster.
However, although controls can make characters move with style, our animators also need real-world reference, so they had to learn how to act.
Animation doesn't happen overnight, though, as a shot must go through various phases.
From blocking to get the characters staged in the shots, to rough, where we refined a lot of the timing and overall movements, to polish, where we meticulously went over every movement and reaction of the characters. We slowly but surely brought the film together and the characters to life.
As we animated, we asked ourselves, is this action motivating? Does this shot fit the overall story? How would Will throw a fairy out of his shot? Our focus was always storytelling through character action.
And while those character actions got our story pretty far on their own, having a solid audio backing took it even further.
We believe that music is a vehicle for humanity. It's no coincidence. A large part of our film is the music. We spent a lot of time fine-tuning our score to the picture, because as you saw, It's the violin that Ruth and Will had in common.
We have one problem though. None of us knew how to actually play the violin. This made animating a character playing the instrument on screen a little bit of a challenge.
To remedy this and help our characters deliver beautiful performances, we recruited Malika, our wonderful violinist. She played the violin parts live in order for our animators to match the movements of Ruth and Will playing on the screen.
In addition to recruiting musicians and sound producers, we also composed our own soundtrack, voice acted, and performed our original credits song.
There are still a lot of there's still many pieces that we had to put together.
What really makes a film pop is quality lighting and rendering. Every frame is actually a combination of over 20 images that we blend together to create a final picture. And this shot alone contains over 10,000 images.
As you can see, we all put so much of ourselves into Unstrung. As the film grew and matured, so did we. We loved working on it, every moment of it, and we are so proud of what we accomplished.
But we wouldn't have gotten this far without a little help.
Or a lot.
We would like to thank our very generous donors who made finishing the entire film possible.
Dave Moriello, who relentlessly challenged us to elevate our work to a professional level.
Eli Wilson, Jackson Mumford, Malika Kodavadaganti, Alec Powell, and Brett Copper, who helped make the sound and music a reality.
And of course, we'd like to thank you, and you, and you, and all of our friends and family who supported us the entire way through.
You can follow and support us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Popclick Studio as we officially released Unstrung. You can also visit our website for more information on us and the project. Also, if you're on Snapchat, please feel free to use one of our geo filters. We have 2 of them today, so go crazy.
So thank you so much for coming out today and listening to us and all the other senior project teams. We had a blast making this film. You can check out our table upstairs to find some fun and free merch. Have a wonderful afternoon and
Thank you. Wow, thank you all for being here. This is an incredible show. I'm very proud of all of our seniors. I'd actually like to see them all come back out here now and climb up on this stage. And while they're coming out here, I think they're deserving of another really big round of applause.
Digital Media Class of 2018. Now, I've got mine. You can get yours, but I remind you, you've got a job to do. What's next, Mo?
Let's go.
Come on down. Get some pictures. Take your pictures. You've got an expo to do. Get the team shots here. Enjoy this moment. Congratulations, all of you. Thank you all for being here. The expo